Hello, everyone. Welcome to Powerful Impact Podcast. This is SP, and I am here today with DJ Bonds and DJ Breeze, and they did a wonderful documentary called Elements, where we're from. So I would normally ask where you're from, and but you showed us where you were from.
Yes, we
By
did.
90 minutes of your time and told you where we're from.
Yeah, you showed us where you was from. But how does how does it affect what you do as an artist?
Well, coming from LA.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think growing up in LA, and I guess when I traveled to DJ in other cities or whatever, um, actually, I appreciate going out and being outside of LA to see other cultures and things. So when you're in LA, there's a certain pocket, a certain scene, a certain audience, whatever that you kind of cater to, and going outside LA open up to other possibilities and other music and play things like that. So um,
Mhm.
there's definitely benefits for going up to LA. Competition wise seems like everyone's a DJ. So on the DJ part of things, your skill set needs to be a certain way, right? To play out
Yeah.
here in LA and do your thing. So that's a good thing to me. I love competition. I love that part of it. But I would say there's more pros and cons. Being
Mhm.
from LA. Yeah. Reese, what do you say?
I agree with Bonds. Actually, I didn't really get to realize how much LA had an influence on my style of DJing and even style of producing until I left Los Angeles and went to like New York and Philadelphia and I was very inspired by those cities as well. But it was going to those cities that I realized what New York and Philly and of what of those cities inspired me. And then when I came home, I realized then what of LA inspires me. And, because every city is unique. So, yeah, there's definitely, I realize now more than ever, yeah, I definitely have a West Coast influence in whatever art form I express in.
Having a West Coast influence, what does that entail? Does it how does it come out in your music? I know what I always loved about LA is the it was a gritty sound, but you could dance to it. Because being from Texas, that drew us in because
Mm.
we gonna dance. We don't care what's playing. You can put on church music. We gonna dance. So,
Well, there's something about that West Coast funk, and I think that it's evident in any style of music, whether it's gangster music or more underground or R&B. Even the jazz seems to me like it has a little bit of funkiness to it that is just LA all its own. So I think that funk is what's always hit people, you know.
Yeah. Now, the technical DJ side, I would say having like listening to as a kid Joe Cooley scratch and like, well, I don't know, 89 or something like that, 88,
Hmm.
his albums were Joe Cooley or DJ Aladdin, the low profile, tapes and stuff. And so something about hearing them scratch and then later on when I had like my real turntables and trying to mimic those scratches, like obviously there was an influence from Joe Cooley and DJ Aladdin, who, if you don't know who they are, Google them, please. DJ Aladdin and DJ Joe Cooley. They were heavily influenced on LA DJs, but specifically on myself.
well, there's a lot of people who, because the world was so small when our worlds were so small when hip hop first burst on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in Texas, we literally had to pilfer somebody else's music. Somebody had to send it to us, or the guy from New York would come down and we
Mm-hmm.
buy CDs because um, it was all in the background for us.
Right.
So what I love about documentaries is I get to learn about all of these wonderful people that I would never even know about, and I appreciated your documentary so much because there was so much I didn't know that I learned from your documentary. One of the things that caught my attention was the dancing.
Hmm.
So, what's the difference between breakdancing, pop locking, and freestyle dancing?
So, Reed, you want to take this?
Uh, well, okay. Uh, b-boying is more technical, as in
Mm-hmm.
like if you're gonna do a windmill, you know what a windmill looks like. We all know that if you're gonna be back spinning, we all know what back spinning looks like. So b-boying was definitely more technical, and you had to sort of master those techniques to be considered really good. Whereas pop locking was definitely like a West Coast thing. It was a West
Mm-hmm.
Coast thing. It started out, honestly, with a lot of the gangsters. They were pop locking. They would wear the white gloves and the
Mm-hmm.
black T-shirts, and it would just enhance that movement. Pop locking, from what I mainly know, is more of an upper body. Where you're locking your. It's more of a, you're locking your joints, you're locking your movements. Where
Mm-hmm.
freestyle dancing, that's what it was. It was just free. You could do whatever, and it was called many things, from grooving to housing to shocking out to freestyle dancing. And as far as hip hop, I think the best known example would be an MC by the name of Def Jeff, and his backup dancers were called the Soul Brothers, and they were, perhaps, like, they were really looked up to as far as freestyle dancing. Same thing with the Scheme Team, who was the backup dancers for Divine Styler. Now these were more underground groups, but then you had also like Big Daddy Kane, who had his dancers like Scoob and Scrap. You had MC Light, who had Leg One and Leg Two. So we come from that era, and we wanted to shine light on that. It doesn't get talked about enough,
Mm-hmm.
and there are documentaries on it. And you could do a documentary on each style, honestly, because
Yeah, you could.
at least here in LA, each style flourished.
Yeah.
You would go to b-boy events, and they were packed. If you would go to an underground hip hop event, there were a lot of freestyle dancers, and they were packed in the house. So, and you have still, I think to this day, you still have like pop locking contests and pop locking
Yeah.
get-togethers, and so for it's crazy to me how LA, we don't exaggerate. Like when we say we've represented hip hop culture, we have represented every aspect of hip hop culture, from dance to graffiti to emceeing to DJing to beat making. It's really, but we've never, we know that, it didn't start here, but we definitely were so influenced by it. We took it to,
Mm-hmm.
they say the East Coast invented it, but the West innovated it. So I
Yeah.
really think that, and it's no disrespect to them.
So we have Nev entered the building, so I'm gonna bring him up.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome to Powaful Impact. Boom.
Peace.
peace.
So one of the people that was so admired throughout the documentary was Bigger B.
Yeah,
Uh,
bigger B.
who is he exactly, and how did he play? How did he play such a large part in the hip hop scene in L.A.?
I'll let Bond start with this one. I'll add to it, but I'll let Bond start with this one because I'm sure we both have something to say.
Yeah, yeah. He started out, at least for me. I won't give his whole history and background. I know they're gonna do a documentary on him and explore his story more. But he was working at record labels, specifically Loud record label, which Loud in the '90s. You think about Loud and who came out of Loud was Mobb Deep, Wu Tang, Exhibit. the alcoholic.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
think about that early '90s, right? And just the artists I named, and imagine them doing like their first concert ever in LA, or first tours and things like that. So he was able to see, basically have Mobb Deep, right, or Wu Tang come out, but then have someone from the LA Underground like open up and have both coasts basically on one stage. And that was really influential on us specifically, um, because it wasn't really done before. I mean, there were other clubs that, well, I won't misspeak. So there were other clubs that did that, but they somehow filled the void. Like when one club went away, they started to flourish even more. You know what I'm saying? Or they became more consistent, if you will. You know what I mean? So and the impact was huge. To have, was Jay-Z or Nas or Biggie or some of their first like promo tour, like, you know what I'm saying, for their albums coming out and perform, and then having someone from the LA Underground bubbling, rock there with them. That it was a huge influence on our scene.
Yeah, I think like Bonds just said, there were other venues going on, there were other events, but Unity was, um as you know, as we say in the film, if you're an up and coming artist, that's where you wanted to perform. That was where you wanted to be. And Bigga B in Orlando, they were the center of that. And at that time, the West Coast really hadn't put its foot down. They were definitely making a little bit of noise, and people were starting to take notice, like, but they hadn't really put their foot down yet. And so Bigga B allowed, he was really the first real big door for West Coast up and coming artists that were trying to establish themselves. I remember going to a Unity, and it was Black Moon and Helter Skelter. We had never heard of Helter Skelter, so that was great in itself. That's how old that show was. But opening up, I believe, that night was a guy by the name of Voodoo from Western Hemisphere, and he had a guy with him named Razkaz. And it's because of Unity that I got to see Razkaz for the first time back when, we had nobody had heard of him. And he's an opening act, but he blew the roof off that place, and we were like, "Who is this guy?" And Bigga B did that for so many West Coast artists that you now know of, that are still out today, still relevant today. And he also had a huge impact on Wu Tang's career. He was really the first person to bring Wu Tang out to the West Coast. I remember their first single, "Protect Your Neck" or "Mystery of Chess Boxing," had just dropped, and he brings them out, and the place is packed and sold out. And we were going crazy because we wanted to see them also. And Bigga B brought that. And I believe even Raekwon is quoted as saying there would be no Wu Tang without Bigga B. So, he really was opening doors for people before anybody else was. And, it was about time that people knew his name. And we were like, people have to know his name.
That is so dope. Um, we didn't have that kind of motion in Texas. We kind of had to beg people for a while to come down.
It took a while to get y'all, huh?
Yeah, it took a while. I think it was probably UGK that kind of started, or actually the Ghetto Boys that kind of started the funneling of people that came into Texas.
Hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
is there any types of clubs or movements in LA now that are reminiscent of Elements?
Yeah,
No.
well, I would say the well, I would give it up to Boombox on
Mhm.
their. They're not a weekly; it's more of a once a month. Um,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
it-
don't think we have anything like us. No.
Not like us specifically, I would say no, but
No.
some of that
No.
that audience that either went
Hmm.
to our spot or other kind of spots, kind of similar. They seem to gravitate towards this one event called Boombox, but it's a little bit more
Yeah.
heavier on the DJ side of things, or maybe beat making, things like that, where we kind of we had those, but we definitely focus on the dance circle and giving money towards like a dance battle, or at the end of the night doing an MC battle, and then giving money to the top MC of that night. So um, we seem to be a little bit of MC battle focus, dance battle focus, DJ battle like it was heavy competition vibes going up in there. A little different than today's mindset where like if you got on stage like now, like tonight, if I went to a showcase, I wouldn't be inclined to boo, right? Elements, they would get booed off stage if you was whack. You know what I'm saying? If you came whack as an MC, you would literally get fucking booed. You were gonna boo you if you're whack. So some of those things are kind of gone. I'm a little almost sound old school in a way by saying we're gonna boo you off stage, but that's a little bit of where we came from.
Yeah, we still boo.
Yeah, okay. So you with me?
Yeah,
That's
we might throw shit at you too, cause
yeah.
we done spent our money to get off in here, and you gonna be whack. Yeah, we gonna throw something at you.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. That's great. That's the way it should be.
Do I personally don't believe so, but I'm at, in your opinion, do you think West Coast hip hop gets the acknowledgement that it deserves?
Well, yes
Uh,
and no. So if you're talking West Coast and Dre performing at the Super Bowl, then hell yeah, right? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So with that being said, if you're talking about
Underground,
LA
no.
underground hip hop, which our documentary is about, hell no. And that's the reason why we made the documentary. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
typically there's a story about MC named Otherwise. And as I'm watching the Super Bowl, my dad's like, "Are any of the guys in your doc?" I was like, "Well, actually, that white boy rapping right there, he's inside the doc, but he's inside the doc because he lost a battle to one of our MCs. Now, obviously, he might have won the battle that night, but this dude won the war. He's on the Super Bowl performer right now. We're watching him. You know what I mean? But LA underground MCs have a skill set that is not talked about often or enough, you know. And so we put a highlight and a real shine on. I believe we did a decent job on showing that throughout the doc. So yes and no. Talking about West Coast, G Funk era, Snoop and Dre, yeah, they just performed at the Super Bowl. If you're talking about LA Underground props, I would say no.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of the driving forces behind making the film. We wanted to show like that's not all we're about. It's definitely a huge part of our life. If you're from LA, you're gang affiliated, and if you're black and brown, one way, even if you're not in the gang, you're gang affiliated one way or another, whether through a friend, your brother, your sister, your uncle who just got out and he's coming to stay with you for 6 months. Well, it's you are gang affiliated here, so it's embedded in our culture out here, but it's not all we're about. And like Bond said, that's what we try to shine light through the film. You know,
Oh, I
Yeah,
can't. Yeah.
In the film, you talk about the two sides of LA. Can you kind of explain what that means? The two sides of LA.
uh, well, I mean, LA is one of those rare cities where you have this. It's Hollywood. You know, you don't have Hollywood in Philly. You only got Hollywood. I mean, you have aspects of Hollywood in New York, aspects of Hollywood in Miami, but this is Hollywood. So you have this Hollywood world here, the glitz and glam, and then you have this sort of parallel subworld right underneath it that's running along with it. There is some glitz and glam in that too, and it's it seems to be that way not just with hip hop but across the board, whether it's with food, theater, acting, DJing, art installations. It's really you have that Hollywood world, and then you have real LA, and and that's what we wanted to talk about as well. Is people think that this is a documentary about elements, and it It is, but it's told from the force. It's told from our point of view. Bonds and I are not the main characters of this film. The main character of this film is the city of LA, and what we're trying to basically say is it's the people that you don't see that really make this city great. It's the street vendors, it's the people in your office that you work with every day. It's there, us, for example, we have a whole team behind us that we would not be here if it wasn't for them. And it's everybody, every artist that I know, whether they're solo, they always have a team. So it's the people that you don't see that make this city great. And so I think it's summed up great when Ross Root, who's Fife's manager, is talking about that, where there's a certain pride in this city, and that you come here with respect and love and your family for life. But the minute you disrespect that, you can't come back. and that was evident in that story. So that's it how it is for me. So I don't know if Bonds wants to add to that.
No, you got it. You summed it up good.
Um, do you remember the moment that you fell in love with hip hop?
Yeah, all right, Bonds. I
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah. So growing up, I used to go visit my grandma in Indiana, and my cousins would play hip hop all the time, and so I would hear like kind of like the same thing, like you would hear East Coast like mixtapes, right, from Mr. Magic or DJ Red Alert or different like East Coast DJs or whatever. But specifically, after one summer, they knew I liked hip hop. I don't think I really knew I liked hip hop as much as I did until they basically sent out a couple of albums to my dad for Christmas, and then my dad bought a stereo. And as he was sound checking it during Christmas morning, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And when he puts the needle on, he puts it on LL Cool J's "I'm Bad." So we're talking like '87, like Christmas '87. And so I hear the beginnings of "I'm Bad," the "Oh no rapper," like the whole, and he got it on volume like 10 or 12 because he didn't know what he was doing. So I hear this in my sleep. He wakes me out of my sleep to LL Cool J, and I just run and I hug him, and I jump into his arms. You know what I'm saying? Like 10 years old, and that's when that is the moment I knew I loved hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That excitement and joy in my heart. And so I didn't go back to sleep. I spent the rest of the time memorizing LL. And then the next album, it was all together. It was 3 albums. It was LL Cool J's Bigger Than Deffer. It was Eric B. and Rakim, Paid in Full. And it was Dane and Dane, Cinderella. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, it was those 3 albums. So it was storytelling, true MCing. You know what I'm saying? It was like the perfect, like, base, right, to have in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So, I know when folks are, when they're born in different eras and decades, you might grow up and your favorite artist is so and so and so and so. But for me, it was like Rakim and LL and Dane and Dane right away because at 10 years old, those were my first 3 albums I memorized back and forth. You know what I mean?
Man, for me, I was a latchkey kid. So I would come home to pretty much an empty house. And instead of doing my homework, I would pop on videos. This is mid 80s, early 80s. So there were a bunch of video shows then, because the music video was hot, really big then. It was still spanking new. So I remember just watching videos. I listened to all types of music growing up as a kid. But I remember one day just watching some music videos, and the Houdini video for Freaks Come Out at Night comes on. And I just stopped. I was just like, what is this? And the vocoder voice got me already, but then when I saw the B-boys breakdancing on stage, I was like, oh man, like that's whatever that is, I want to do that. And everything else in my life stopped after that. Just started breakdancing, started dressing, hip hop, and um, I was too young to go anywhere, but the only place you could go to really was Magic Mountain, Six Flags Magic Mountain. And they had a DJ, playing music, and you can go there and actually listen to hip hop like from the 80s, and that was like the only place, and there used to be break dancers there too. So we used to just go up there. But that was when I fell in love with hip hop, when I saw that, and I was like, that's it. And it's been hip hop since. So
So everybody wants to be a rapper. I learned early on that I couldn't. I sounded horrible, and there was no way on earth anybody would ever listen to me say anything out loud to music.
right.
So, what made you instead pick up a turntable?
Same thing, actually. I listened to myself and I was like, nobody's gonna want to buy that. So and that's when I started getting into beats and into DJing. But yeah, I tried the rhyme thing one time as just to try it, and I was like, yeah, this is not me. And I know my limits.
One
So
time, one time.
well, there's a tape probably floating out there right now that so I'm hoping it doesn't resurface. But yeah,
We're going to turn it into an NFT.
you know, exclusive.
Exclusive. That's what's up. My dad was so my grandpa owned a record store in Indianapolis, Indiana, and so my dad was the manager and DJ, quote unquote, for the store. So the latest Aretha Franklin record or whatever, Motown. So he was born in 1950, so you can imagine his teenage years, 64, 65, 66. All the kind of good music that came out during that time. So we always just grew up to records and music being around me. So there was a classmate of mine who was like, I'm gonna get some turntables, and then we're gonna start DJing parties. And then, like, I don't know how it happened, but all of a sudden we got booked for a party like in 5th grade or whatever. And it was someone's like birthday party. He didn't even have equipment. He made his mom buy equipment like that day. He was like one of them kids that could do that. They just yell at your mom and tell them we're gonna buy this right now, and then go to the party and DJ and figure it out. Yeah, he was one of them kids. So that was my
Fresh
first
Prince of
time.
Bel Air.
Yeah, it was on that vibe. It was just straight up and down. It was crazy. I just saw him like 2 weeks ago. My first partner ever was DJ partner was Filipino, and he just blessed like that. You know what I'm saying? But so that was the influences came from pops, right? And then just having a classmate who had it like that to get some turntables. And when I got on, I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. I could mix in certain songs. I'm playing heavy D, I'm playing different joints and shit. And I was like, yeah, I fucks with this. So ever since then, ever since I was 12, I've been DJing.
So let me ask you, what was the best selling record at your pop's record store?
That's a good question. You know what? I want to say it's Aretha, but I gotta ask him. To be honest with you, I gotta ask him. But he talks about Aretha a lot.
That's a trick question, SP. You saying of all genres? That's a
Yeah,
hard
because
question. Hip hop.
we talked with General Steele, and he worked at a record store, and he said the one record they couldn't keep in the record store was Marvin Cease Stroking. So
No, Mr. Walt at
Mr. Walt.
Music Factory. Yes, you're right. That's right. Stroking. He said that. Yes,
That's funny.
he said that couldn't stop selling. Wow.
So when did you decide? So you decided you wanted to be a DJ, but when did you decide that you could do it full time and actually make it a career?
I don't know. I think I always just had that mindset. I'm a DJ. All throughout high school, I threw parties in my backyard. I started running a club at 16, and doing parties even though I was underage. It was like a 16 and over. And then I was still DJing if I just couldn't drink or whatever. It's just always been in my blood. You know what I'm saying? So
Allegedly.
as far as I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said allegedly. You weren't allowed to drink allegedly.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
I'm playing.
yeah. So,
You had
yeah,
an EIN number. You
yeah,
had tax ID. You an LLC at 16. You ain't playing DJ
man,
Bonds. You was paying
yeah,
taxes
man. We was well,
allegedly. That's
yeah, nah,
gangster though. No, that's gangster though. For real. Salute to that. Salute to the teenage entrepreneurs out there. For real.
Well,
yeah,
back then it was more grassroots. You know, you could, for those that know, we have this street called Melrose, and back then you had all these shops, record stores, and as well as clothing stores, and whatever other type that would carry your mix CD, your mixtape. So you could literally make a living, by just footing it if you really wanted to. If you really had the hustle, hit all the stores, and and you collect at the end of the month, and yeah, the next thing you know, you don't really need a job. Things were different then, you know. Things were different then. It's not really like that now. The obviously the mix CD and the mixtape thing got, they tried to shut that whole thing down, calling it piracy, etc. But yeah, back then it was a little more grassroots. So it was a little more formula based rather than now where you can build it on social media and it's kind of just like free for all, whatever, as far as what you can do.
right.
So back then you had to build a relationship with the record stores and the clothing stores and their buyers and who and make sure like, hey, 5 here, 5 there, 10 CDs here, 10 CDs there. It starts to add up after a while, and it was good money.
So it basically was like on consignment and with the mom and pops
Hmm.
shops.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
cool.
after a while, like if you build a relationship with them and they know your stuff is moving, they'll pay you up front.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
amazing.
and
Like wholesale.
yeah, and you're selling 10 CDs to them at $10 a pop.
The great Ice Cube said.
Seven, 10 stores. You paid your bills there.
He said,
You
"I
know,
rule. I always say I move rhymes like weight. That's what's up.
yeah,
Salute
yeah.
to Cube.
But it was different then. It was different. Once internet and Napster came into play and downloading came into play, and it really changed the game. And also, you had FBI literally raiding record stores out here and finding them for carrying this stuff. So a lot of stores were like, "We don't carry it no more," and that was money out of our pocket right there. So
Dude.
Thank you so much for that. I didn't
yeah,
hear that part. I always heard about Atlanta. I never really heard about the West Coast getting that too.
from
So
what I
thanks for that.
understand, it happened nationwide.
I appreciate it. No, that's
Yeah,
interesting because I only knew Atlanta. So
yeah.
thank you for schooling me on that. I know DJ. Anyway, I don't want to say, but DJ blank, he went
No,
through
it's
it.
all good.
Everybody knows who went through it.
Yeah.
Where do you two see DJ? Right, I'm going to ask you to speak for the whole nation. Where do you see DJing now with what is going on? I guess with the pandemic, like you said, everything going digital, playlist, blah blah blah. Where do you see DJ going 5 to 10 years from now? I guess as an art form and as a career for people that want to get into it, youngsters that are watching and stuff.
Whew, bombs or I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's always gonna be evolving, right? Yeah, I think it's always gonna evolve. I mean, DJing has definitely
Yeah,
been commercialized. That's for sure. It's very commercialized right now. It's probably one of the most, I mean, commercialized parts of it, right now. It's very for showmanship. I'm hoping that it stays grounded in the skill. No matter, that's the good thing about all the technology that I'm seeing, even though it's definitely different, you still need the skill to move the room. I'm hoping that it gets back to pre-pandemic where we're in the room with people. The Twitch thing is definitely fun, but I just don't think it's the same. So that's just my 2 cents. But I think you still need the skill, which is great. As long as you still need the skill, I'm good for all the technology stuff. Like, bring it on.
yeah, I think there's an opportunity to bring digital and in person together. So as we saw in the pandemic, there were certain DJs that built up a Twitch following and online presence, and you look at D Nice. Like D Nice was always already killing it. We would do our about 40th birthday, me and Dinesh rocked together, and we did a party together. So he has a presence, right, already in person. People come out to see him, but something about what happened during the pandemic obviously amplified his image and how many people follow him and things like that. So now he's able to do in-person events on a larger scale. So I think that's going to hold true for other DJs, and that could be a way where you really gather a gathering followers, digitally. And then as you do your in person, you have some really exclusive, you know, moments, with real fans. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love when I rock a crowd and it's like not necessarily a specific niche crowd, like to underground hip hop, but just like whatever, like a top 40 crowd, right? And I'm spinning like a top 40 shit. But I show a skill set that you can tell I know what the fuck I'm doing. Or I'll play one or two joints that not necessarily is top 40, but you just love, and then you have people coming up to me and they might be a little bit younger, but they fuck with that vibe. So I like going into different places, you know what I'm saying, and kind of showing improvement, So I don't think those kind of things are ever gonna go away. You know what I'm saying? Um, skill is skill, no matter what decade, what period, that kind of thing, or where you're at.
Yeah, I personally think DJs were the saving grace of this pandemic. I would have lost my mind if it wasn't so many DJs that were just playing. It just made you feel like you were a part uh, of, humanity, because there were people in the chat and you could chat back and forth and you just didn't feel so lonely. I think DJs were the stars of the pandemic.
Yeah, music
Yeah.
and dancing heals trauma, and we were definitely going through some trauma, during that time, and we still somewhat going through it. But that's why, when you hear, whether it's things that affect us and inequalities, rather it's racism and shit like that. You have individuals saying "fuck the police," or hear the voice of Chuck D. You know what I'm saying? That's healing to our trauma because we got someone to stamp on it. Like, yes, I'm feeling that too, brother. You know what I'm saying? So when you're able to gather and fellowship, you know what I'm saying, share music and dance is healing. It's a very healing thing. So yeah, I do hope that as we get into actually getting a chance to tour the doc. So right now we've done basically like one screening before we even released it. Right, it was like a rough draft, nothing clear, no samples. Like that was a hella rough draft that we did like a couple years ago, and then we did like one screening at High Road Day. But we really haven't got a chance because of the pandemic. We haven't got a chance to actually get
Hmm.
out with the folks, show the doc, rock a after party, DJ, and fellowship. You know what I'm saying? So looking forward to that. You know what I'm saying, during the spring and summer months.
When so Speaking of the doc, when did you decide to be a founder of Elements and eventually a show promoter, and especially one for large outdoor events? How did I watched the documentary and it was, I think I jammed out most of it. I can't even lie. I think I missed some of the wording because I was just in
At that
my
head nod.
element. Because I was just in my element because I was born in '72,
Right.
so I grew up with hip hop.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
all I knew, So I was jamming all over the place. So, but how did that happen? How did you decide to become the founder of Elements?
Go ahead, boss. That's
So
you, brother.
yeah, so it was basically meeting my cousin Damon Bonds. Like I knew him, but we didn't hang a lot or whatever. And my son, who was born on my birthday, um, he came out too much premature, so we never had the official baby shower or anything like that. So my dad really wanted to make sure that it could happen, and when it did, I'm in hustle mode because I just had a kid, so I wanted to rock a party that night, you know, and get paid for it. And I told my cousin to come with me, and he saw me rocking this party, and he's like, "Yo, man, this house party shit is cool, but you really need to be, you know, in front of a real crowd. You need to be in a club." And so from there, he went like, you know, venue to venue. I would go with him, and we found quote unquote the right club. You know, we were only there for like one night. It was called a Martini Lounge, and we had, you know, dancers and girls and da 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 da. Da. And after the night was done, the owner of the venue was like, "Yo, you guys were good and all that, but I got an even bigger promoter coming in next week, so y'all have to kick rocks, go somewhere else." So they gave us a referral to this spot called the Gaba. And when you walk into the Gaba, it was so like dark and dingy and grimy.
Ghetto.
And it was like, yo, there's no way in hell I could have like the Jiggy era puffy Jay-Z movement up in this piece. This is like some hardcore hip hop, rhymes, battles. It just when you walked in, it gave you that sense. So my cousin was like, yo, as long as you think it'll be dope, I'm with it. So I knew I couldn't promote it as a like how can I say this? Not a danceable club, but I knew it had to be more organic hip hop. So from there, I hit up Breeze, you know, because I know he had that ear to the street with, you know, folks. Hit up my DJ partner, Silos, you know, and we got on down on four turntables every week. And we created this, you know, kind of niche group, you know, that came from different backgrounds, but just loved hip hop, you know, and went through
Right.
all the trials and tribulations of throwing a club together.
So, why do you think these niche underground movements fold after a while?
I think well, the only thing constant in this world is change, and I think that's what happened. Is you know the music was changing and the era was changing. It really is what it was, and we were kind of at the tail end of that. Meaning, it wasn't just in our era, like Bonds just described the venue. It was really grungy and dingy and grimy. That doesn't even happen anymore with underground hip hop in this day. Like underground hip hop is now happening in nice venues, in bigger venues and nicer venues, and there's nice,
Facts.
I'm like, and that's that I'm not complaining. That's great, but we started to sort of see the beginning of that, and we come from Elements was more of a vinyl era, record store era, mom and pop, grassroots. Whereas we started to see, like I said, the digital influence really coming in. And I think that also the other reason why it changed as far as Elements is and I didn't realize this until I saw the film, we gave so much to the public. And I think when you keep giving people, like we all love pizza, we have our favorite pizza, but if you keep eating that pizza every day, eventually, like, and I think people just after a while with the era and the scene changing, and then we gave so much in such a short span that I think people were just kind of like ready for something new. And, you know, you gotta move on. Sometimes people ask us like, "Hey, you guys should bring back Elements," and we're like, "Nah, that can't happen anymore. Elements is done. It was for
Sputter,
that
sputter.
era and that era only. It would not work in this era today. We could probably throw another type of underground club, but like the way we did that, that's just lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
that we caught.
How long was the run from like beginning to end, so to speak? I know that there, from watching it, I know that there was the root down. There were all these other pieces, right? That started these other movements, unity, etc., etc. How
Well,
long was this era roughly?
oh well,
I guess your
Elements era
era
was
and
what,
the
3.5
overall era.
years.
Okay,
Elements era was 3.5 years,
3.5.
Yeah.
but Unity was before us. I
Like
remember
a
going to
decade, everything.
we started in '98. I remember going to my first Unity like in '93. So you had this era before us, which we speak on in the
And the
film.
good life came before that, and then even
Yeah, Water
maybe
the Bush.
Water the Bush, maybe, so what you want to
Hmm.
say with Water the Bush, maybe like 89, 90, something like that.
It was a like 90, yeah, 91, like
Mm,
there, not around that era. So that was all mentioned in the film, but that was pre Elements. That was
yeah.
pre Elements. My first Unity was, yeah, about 92, 93. I remember it went on. It was still going on actually when Elements technically started. Bigger B used to come to Elements, and he used to tell us like, "Oh, this is cool because I'm not working. I get to enjoy hip hop here." So,
Awesome.
and then, but shortly after is when he passed away. But unfortunately, but yeah, there was a whole scene before us. But like Water the Bush was mainly started by, I believe, Africa Islam. So you had like cats coming from the east doing stuff here, whereas with Elements, it was and Unity, it was LA heads putting LA on,
Yeah.
and same thing with Brown Rice and Barbecue. I believe my man, rest in peace, Al Jackson, had that you finally had LA cats making their mark and finally putting in their foot in the ground.
So everybody got like a 3 to 5 year run. Some people got a longer run, a handful, but overall that was kind of the cycle, roughly,
Yeah,
shelf life.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the funny thing, the other spots that you mentioned, we were the first night at the GABA. The GABA was bought out by this Middle Eastern cat who we had to deal with. Before that, it was a punk club. It was called the Anti Club. And then we were the first night, and then we basically spread the word like, yo, come here. And the next thing you know, the Root Down is there, which is its own historic that they have their own incredible history as well.
Yeah.
Which, if you want a sneak glimpse into what the Root Down was, there's a DVD called Sound Clash. I highly, highly recommend it. Rest in peace, my man DJ Dusk. He put on these beat battles where you had Madlib versus Cut Chemist. You had Thess One from People Under the Stairs versus I think it was
It was Will I Am.
Will I Am, yeah, from Black Eyed Peas. So and it's on DVD. So anybody who's listening to this, go get that. That's the family Mochella, B plus, and Eric Coleman. That'll take you into what Root Down used to. And this is all at the Gap.
We're gonna
Chocolate Bar was on Saturday.
we're gonna put this in the link. I have that DVD
Yeah,
by the way. It's
yeah,
fire. But we're
it's an
gonna put all
incredible
these in the
DVD.
links so
Yeah,
people can
that
find
was
them.
the Gap.
Yeah, we're gonna put them in the links.
They were Thursday. We were Sunday.
Why does the phone keep ringing? We
Chocolate
asked this
Bar. Chocolate
before
Bar
answering
was
people.
on Saturday.
Um, I was going to ask, kind of regarding the music thing now. Racism comes in here and systemic racism, right? With we don't want you playing. I saw that in the documentary. Don't play certain music. We don't have the insurance. I thought that was very interesting. I was like, man,
Yeah, that's
even as we were quote unquote breaking through certain lines, right? It was going on then. It's still going on now, and
yeah.
it's a way to shut things down. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Do you want to? It was one person spoke on it in it, but do you think that is a factor still now, currently, or do you think these things are changing? Just curious.
I don't I don't really think they're changing. you know, I think people have always feared what they don't understand, and I
Situation
still
they never
see that
stop things from
as big as hip hop has gotten, I see a lot of the population that still doesn't get it, and I mean it's no matter what genre, it's to a certain extent it's punk. It's our way of saying fuck you, to society, and so you're either going to understand it or you're not. It's
Yeah.
just you either love it or you hate it. It's just the way it is. So I see the beauty in it. I always have. I definitely see the other side, but it's one of the most beautiful art forms on the planet, and it is homegrown right here. And It doesn't matter what color you are, and we stress that in the film. It doesn't matter what color you are. It's really about the skill. We see that from DJing all from across the board, you know, to MCing, you know.
And I'll
I don't
just
So
know,
add,
Bonds, you want to speak on that? Yeah.
yeah, I'll just add real quick. I know we probably short on time here. That ownership is crucial. You know, you again, Super Bowl just happened, right? You know, how many black team owners are there? How many black head coaches are there? You know, so now let's flip it to venues. How many black venues are there that own the venue, right? Where, you know, hip hop is being played or, you know, things like that. So, you know, I think ownership, you know, as we try to circulate black and brown dollars within our community, within hip hop, that's a huge thing. Is the mindset there a little bit? You know, when Nipsey died, some of that, you know, mindset was there, right? It was amplified a little bit because what Nipsey was about. But you know, after a while, that kind of seems to drift away a little bit. So I think there are certain cats that try to, you know, push that out there, but it's hard. You know what I mean? You know, even now, like last weekend, there was a lot of shootings for. I don't even know what event that was. It was a bunch of shootings that happened out here, right? A bunch of
Because
people.
of the Super Bowl, you
I
think
think
the
it was.
crowd?
Well, Kodak Black got shot. Somebody got shot. Anyway, so you know,
Kodak
it,
Black.
yeah, you know,
Yes,
It was
yes,
a Justin Bieber party.
yeah. So again, now you don't hear about any LA underground hip hop parties and someone getting shot, right? These are parties that are like, you know, they talk about
Please, DJ
negativity
Bonds,
and
can you
violence
repeat that
and shooting.
again? DJ Bonds, can you please repeat that loudly again for when this gets played, wherever it gets played? Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry to cut you off.
So again,
Please
the,
repeat
the
that.
parties that people getting shot at, they're glorifying, you know, violence and negativity and things like that. The shooters are not happening at LA underground hip hop event, right? You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about
Hmm.
positivity or you talk about the culture and you promote different things that, you know, hip hop's supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to get away from that. Like the origins of it, right? You know, it was basically to get out that frustration of that gang life. You battled on the dance floor, or you DJ'd, or you MC'd, or you know what I'm saying. You participate in elements of hip hop to get away from the gang life. So when you have gangster music or hood music or trap music or whatever the fuck you want to call it, when they only promote negativity, you know what I'm saying? It spirals, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna take the OGs to smack the youngers around when the youngers don't understand or whatever, you know, maybe we get into some more ownership, you know what I'm saying, and have some real face to face conversations, you know what I'm saying, in order to perform in my club, or you know what I'm saying, depending on what security you have. So some of it's ownership on us, you know what I'm saying, policing our own, taking care of our own, you know what I'm saying. So, you know, we got work to do, you know what I'm saying, but it can happen. I truly I know it can happen, you know what I'm saying. It's
Because
just
other
taking
communities
effort,
do it.
you know,
Because
it's
other
taking
communities do it for themselves, right? Like other
yeah.
communities govern themselves,
Mhm.
so to speak, right? You have your Chinatown, you have your Koreatown, you have your whatever,
Mhm.
even within LA, right? These
Mhm.
subcultures within cultures where they can have these things. So
Well,
it's and own them.
that's a good point. People don't realize geographically, LA is very spread out. You know, it's there's a reason why we have the
You
worst
see the
traffic is
traffic.
yeah, but if you don't have a car, you're screwed because our public transportation system is terrible.
Yeah,
You know, so
Facts.
every because it's so spread out, every city does kind of. Long Beach has its own scene, Riverside has its own scene, LA has its own scene, Hollywood has its own scene, the
Venice.
yeah, the
Melbourne.
West Side has its own scene, exactly. So yeah, you can spend. I live in the San Gabriel Valley right now, and I still have yet to discover everything out here because it's just so spread out. So yeah, people don't realize that until they come here.
Um, I think that is a recurring story especially within our culture because there's so much gentrification that you're displaced, and now everyone is displaced everywhere, and it's kind of hard to come together as a community when there is none.
mhm,
So
It's a very good
I think
point.
we're going to have to figure out a different way digitally, or even
Mhm.
even with this podcast, just to the whole reason is just to bring people together, to make sure that our culture still thrives, our culture still grows, and
Mhm.
people we hope they leave better than they came, right? how do
Yes.
how do we get people to see the importance of community, because we've been displaced for so long and spread out so far? How do we get that sense of community back?
Well,
Good question.
it's a tough one because of what's going on right now. It's almost not only divided us more, but it's definitely isolated us more. Even here now, like we have. If you guys were local, we probably would still do it like this, just for quote unquote safety reasons. But so I think we have to just get back to throwing events. Throwing events is really what it is. And in these day and times, if at least in the warm months, we can at least have stuff outdoors. But there always seems to be somebody, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, somebody will do it, but I have faith. You always see that what you just said. How can we come together? How can we do this? You That theme of sustaining hip hop has always been there. Also, when we teach hip hop, like when I teach hip hop to my son who's now 18, like he knows, he has that embedded, like it's about keeping this culture alive. And that's always been taught to, it was taught to us, like we have to keep this alive. We have to keep this alive. So I think as long as we also keep teaching that to keep this culture alive, embed that, it'll sustain. And it's always an evolving art as well.
I am sincerely happy that y'all made these, that people are actually making documentaries that actually come from hip hop, because I think it's very important that we tell our own story instead of having people tell the story for us.
Yes.
Um, who are some of, let me back up. What advice would you give to someone, especially in this day and age, who really wanted to start an underground movement? Um, with your experience in doing it and navigating it, what advice would you give to someone who wanted to do what you guys have done?
Man, there's no perfect formula,
Yeah. That's what
some
I
of
was going
it
to say too.
some of
Yeah.
it is just doing it, just
Hmm.
getting the right, venue or atmosphere or whatever, that kind of thing. Having a good promotional team that will put in the work. Work ethic is something that is hard to measure. You know what I'm saying? When you're doing a job, and I used to interview people for jobs, it's like, but once you see it, you know it. You know, oh, damn, that dude right there. And you hold on to that. You build up a good team. So you got to have a good promotional team. And then hopefully there's some talent, right? That the MCs aren't whack, the DJ ain't whack. You know what I'm saying? That folks that come through know how to actually, get on the floor and do some stuff and, things like that. So there's no right formula. Part of it's just doing it. Don't talk about it, be about it. You know what I mean? Like there
Hmm.
is no perfect timing, right? There's never a
Yeah.
perfect time to go to school, right? After you pass a certain age. There's never the perfect moment to start that business. There's never a perfect time. You just got to do it.
To
Just
start a
fucking do
family.
it. Yeah, just,
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
don't have to do it. Just do it. Like make it
Start.
happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Your
Yep.
name, I'm sorry, but I'm changing it. Your name is DJ Bombs to me. You be dropping bombs in here. Boom! Some real stuff, man. I respect that highly. And I respect Cali highly. You too, DJ Breeze, and the whole movement.
Appreciate it.
I love LA, man. Shout
Thank you,
out
man.
LA, all the entire part of Oakland, up north to down south. The whole of LA is dope, and I love the LA hip hop scene. So thank y'all. I
Yeah.
forgot what my question was, but I just want to give y'all a shout
No,
out.
thank you, man.
No,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We talked about the Super Bowl a few times, but having seen the Super Bowl, I know it's so dope to have hip hop center stage, and I love that they had West Coast center stage. But do you think it was a great representation of what West Coast hip hop truly is?
No, because of
Uh,
the
yeah.
artist, but I think they executed well. I will say that it
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
it
It was
was
great.
executed well. They did well. All
Hmm.
that, you know what I'm saying? And um, for there's certain artists out there. Oh, I should have been on. I should have been on. I should have been on. Like, nah. The way they did it was fine. They executed well. So I not everyone can have the same 13 minutes and perform. Come on, man. What we doing? So it was fine. I think it worked. That's my opinion.
I agree. No, I second that. I agree.
Yeah. So
I wanted to ask a question
Yeah, go ahead.
for the two things. What made you decide to pick that title for the documentary? And then second, um, what's like the overall message you want people to get from this documentary, to carry on tradition, so to speak? Those are the two things. What's behind the title?
Breeze named it. So Breeze, you got that one.
All right, and then
Oh,
you'll
Yeah.
do part B, DJ Bones.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got
well, like I said earlier, for me, I was very adamant about, and you know, shout out to brother Bonds here because he backed me up on it. I was very adamant as a director. I was like, I didn't want to make another quote unquote hip hop film or hip hop documentary film. Like, I didn't want graffiti credits. I didn't want I was like, we don't. I was like, we don't need that. I was like, I wanted to make a great film that just happened to be about hip hop. And where we're from, for me, that title, like I said earlier, it's told from our perspective, but the main character of the film is the city of LA, and which is where we're from. And that's why it's called that. It really is about the city, and basically the message that I want people to walk away with is in regards to a perfect example, the Super Bowl. I loved it. I thought it was executed perfectly as well. A great walk down nostalgia memory lane per se, but that's not all we're about, and that's what I wanted to have people walk away from the film is that's not all we're about. We're more than that, and you'd be surprised how much our world has influenced that world, and that I definitely want people to walk away with that. And I want people to walk away knowing the names Rob One, DJ Dusk, Bigga B, because those names weren't really known before as well as they should be. Places like Root Down, places like Water the Bush. I wanted people to walk away knowing those names. Bonds, Breeze, etc.
You got it. That's it.
Mike drop. Boom.
So, if you weren't a DJ, what would you be doing now?
Career wise, hobby wise, whatever.
Oh, I mean, I love photography. Photography, I'm really, really getting into. But if I had to pick like some other life or something, I'd probably be like some like a marine biologist or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
That's
dope.
some
Heck yeah.
something like I love aquatic stuff and animals, and I like helping animals, so I'm into that. So
The dog whisperer
I
over
can't
here.
wait to
Like,
crack
yeah,
jokes on you. I can't wait to
oh yeah,
crack jokes
yeah.
after this is over.
he's
Boy,
Oh,
not
over
here.
here.
I
We
can't
just
wait.
rescued a cat over here. It's
Communicating
all
with
love over here.
dolphins and stuff.
I'm
Oh yeah,
telling you,
that's what I'm
man. I'm
talking
telling you.
about. We'll go
Yeah,
live in the safari. Shout out,
You know,
DJ.
exactly. See you later. I don't need the city no more.
yeah. My family's background is in education, so I still do it now or participate in educational equity and working at a nonprofit. So, doing what I'm doing now. But if I wasn't DJing, it would be, I always say I want to make beats, and I just need to sit down and do it. And like, I need to take my own advice of just trying it and making it happen and figuring out the right equipment to do it the way I know I can. So at some point, hopefully by the time we do this, like, a year from now, already have beats made or whatever, whenever the little Facebook memory pops up that we did this interview or whatever, hopefully by then I'll be able to say, yeah, I started making beats and and here's my
No,
shit.
not hopefully. We're putting this into existence. 1 year
There it
from now,
is.
2023. Shout out, because I'm putting it in existence too. Sir Jinx, you're supposed to be on this show for a while. Okay, stop fronting. You need to be on this show. You're going to mentor this brother right here. And then you're going to get Dr. Dre, who's your big bro. What's big bro? Big cuz. He's big. I don't
That's
know.
what's up.
Whatever. And what's the other one? My other brother, Regulate, Warren G. We getting
Mm-hmm.
them on here. Sir Jinx, stop
Put
missing
it
my
out there,
calls.
Nev.
All right, cool.
That's fun.
She muted me.
Love it.
Sir Jinx,
Love
you've
it.
been fronting on me, Sir Jinx. Stop it.
Shout out Sir James.
So
What up?
You know it's true, SP. So he's gonna teach him. Thank you, respectfully.
That's funny.
so that, I'm going to ask you because, well, since we're here, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I
You
definitely
go
want.
first.
Making
I
beats.
mean, recording studio. I'm really getting into recording engineering. But I'm kind of a renaissance man. I really enjoy photography as well, like I said. So I would love to have a photo exhibit, and I still love producing music. I definitely don't want to do any more promoting, but and doing this project with Bonds has really opened up a passion for directing, and I know that we have some stuff in the works that hopefully will pan out. We can't really say what it is yet, but hopefully will pan out, and that's opened up a new passion for me. So I want to just push the brand Breeze because I want to just do all that stuff. I really do. I don't have a favorite really right now. I have a passion for all that stuff. So
Yeah, I hope to dive into that passion of creating art, that's represented, on the screen, right? So, it started with a documentary and being able to shine a highlight or a light on our culture and our scene that's underrepresented. But that's also true for other things. You know what I'm saying? So, it sounds crazy to say out loud, but I want to make a movie. I actually want to make two movies. So I have it in my head on what I want to do. There's a TV show I want to produce. There's certain things I want to do, and have I ever produced or made a movie before? No, I never produced or made a documentary. Here I am having an interview. You know what I'm saying? So, I know I could put it into it. I can make it happen. It's just a matter of time management, just making this shit happen. So, looking forward to in 5 years that I've accomplished some goals, that I could retire from any kind of forced work by 50 years old. I'm about to turn 45, right? March 25th is my birthday. I turn 45. So in 5 years from now, when I turn 50, I hope to not have to do anything that I don't really want to do, right? For money. Just, if I want to make a beat, I make a beat. I want to produce this doc, I produce this doc. You know what I'm saying? So that's the lane I want to be at. You know what I'm saying? When I hit 50.
Dope. Um,
There is a
so
soundtrack to the doc right now. So we only have one song that we push out there. On Planet Asia and
Yo,
Revolution. And the
okay, I'm
song is called
feeling it.
Elements. It's on all platforms. You just type in the word Elements, DJ Revolution, or Elements Planet Asia. All platforms you can listen to what a soundtrack, what kind of content we would want to put out on the music type tip.
Yo, salute real
shout
quick.
out to Planet Asia.
Yeah, he
Oh,
just got
he's
that
been
rule of thirds.
killing it.
yes, I'm
He's
really
phenomenal.
feeling that rule of third. Yeah,
And I was thinking of that with you,
yeah,
DJ
they
Breeze.
killed it.
Evidence will be your mentor with photography. All right, I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
gonna land it
yeah,
right there.
yeah. Yeah, no, he's shooting some incredible stuff too.
He's going to help you out with whatever that project you were talking about. All
Yeah.
right,
Fun
evidence.
fun fact, real quick. When we did Evanes's interview, he took his lens from his camera, gave it to us to shoot his interview shot. So his shot of his camera work and our doc is his own camera, his own lens. So a little small, you know what I'm saying? Little
DJ
detail.
Bonds, you're
Oh,
making me very jealous right now. You guys, I think, are only what the second West Coast crew we've had on this show. Man, we
Mhm.
not getting a lot of West Coast love. We gotta. Oh, yo, shout out to DJ JFX, by the way. I don't know if
Yeah.
y'all have to know him because
Oh yeah,
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 you
yeah.
yeah.
know him. His
Yeah,
his
yeah. Friday Night
movie,
Flavors,
yeah,
Power
Send No
106.
Slash.
Yeah.
He got a doc coming out. I want to say in April.
yes.
any is there is there anything that you could tell the younger you um
Whew.
that would have changed your journey?
Wow, that's a really good question. Anything that I could tell the younger me to change the journey?
Or
Uh,
just add to it, just
Like that Tenet
some it
movie, right?
made it smoother.
Tenet.
yeah. I wish I would have told myself, stay present and enjoy this. Um, I really, I guess when you're in it and busy and you just don't realize, like it was a really special moment in time what we did, and I wish I would have documented it a little more, like with pictures or things like that, like personal mementos, because there was a lot of stuff that I think Bonds and I did that would fly off the rails right now if people saw it, like and we were just like, oh yeah, it's just another show we're throwing. And so I took it a little for granted what we were doing at the time, and now looking back, it's like, wow, we really were hitting them hard back then. So I wish I would have, been a little more present in the moment and breathe it all in.
I echo that. The documentation, and we were just so lucky that folks came and had a camera, and we have relationships with them. So when we asked them 20 years later, hey, where's that footage at? That they came with it and gave us tapes and stuff because you know, it's back then there was no cell phones or no internet or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So for the moments where there wasn't a camera and we just had that little couple of pictures of Fife being at the club, like we didn't have the actual footage of him battling that night. Like we did our best, to get through moments and stuff. But really appreciate those folks who had cameras. Um, what I tell my younger self, make beats. I shouldn't have been making beats back 20 some years ago. So that's if it's anything, the younger bonds, yo, what the fuck were you doing? Like, yo, you was nice on the turntables. You know what I'm saying? You have plenty of homies who make beats. You could have been doing it for the last 20 decades, 20 years or whatever. So yeah, I would cuss the younger version of myself out for like, yo, you better start making.
And invest in yourself, I guess, too, because that takes a lot of money. Those things that you told about, it takes a lot of money. The equipment,
Yeah.
right, to start the DJ, and that's what I liked when you said it earlier about DJ and everything. I was like, wow, a lot of people I think grab the mic because it's
Mhm,
quote unquote cheaper, less to
mhm,
right. But to be the DJ, you have to have certain amount of resources, like you said, your friend and your partner in
right,
crime in the beginning, and
right.
even like beats now to make right. You got to buy the
Well,
vinyl.
back then, Bonds can attest to this. We were carrying crates as well as turntables and
Mhm,
folding tables, and
mhm,
so you had to be committed if you were going to be a DJ, especially if you were doing mobile stuff, which we all started on, doing house parties and things like that. And your car is packed with stuff, and you got to be committed for sure.
So it took a certain level of startup. You had to have the car, you had to have the gas,
A certain level
the
of
equipment,
insanity is what I like to call it. Just a little bit of madness is all we need.
and be a dreamer.
Yeah, because I mean, you see our record collections, and people are like, why? I'm
Why?
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
why?
I'm like, why not? Like, I can't. Like, why not? I have to.
I collect vinyl, and I'm
Yeah,
not a DJ. And
it's
whenever
a
like
drug.
people
It
come
really
in,
is. It's addicting. It really is.
anytime people come in the apartment like to fix something, like first question is, "Are you a DJ?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Why do you have all this vinyl?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"Because I love
yeah.
collecting vinyl," and it's
There's
like,
a certain
"Why?"
level of just a little
Let me
madness.
do
That's
a
all.
shameless plug. We got this vinyl right here by Bree.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? It just came out.
Dope.
So
oh, that's
shameless
funny.
plug. You know what I'm saying? Just happen to have his vinyl right here.
Thank you.
Where
So,
can we? Where can
so
we?
go ahead, tell
Tell
them
me
where
where
that's
to
at
get
on
it.
platforms, brother. Go ahead, tell them what platform you get your vinyl on.
Yeah.
They can find it on bigcartel.com or my bandcamp.com, the under DJ Breeze. Just DJ Breeze. No fancy spelling or anything, just DJ Breeze. Straight
And
up.
his
And that
vinyl.
is a rare 12-inch that I just put out with 2 Mex of the
So we're
Visionaries.
and we're making that into an NFT, self-included. Okay.
So it's only on vinyl. It's not even on digital right now. So there's a remix on there. There's 3 songs on there. So make sure you cop it.
Yeah. And then for the documentary, it's on a lot of platforms. If you go to elementsdoc.com, that's elementsdoc.com, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube. It's at a bunch of different places. But uh, it's going to be on a new platform in March called Peacock. I was actually watching it last. I was watching a Fresh Prince remake last night. I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
was gonna
oh,
say I heard about that. I heard
I was
that
like, oh
station looked like
shit.
it's about to pop. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna be on that platform March 1st, but don't wait till March 1st. Go to Amazon. Go to go to Apple. Go to
It's available right now.
it's
It's
available right
available
now.
right now. Hmm.
Check it out. Learn about the
Yeah.
LA underground hip hop history. You know,
And you can go to my Instagram, which is DJ Breeze also. And if you go to the link in the bio, that is the link tree to all my links. So just go there.
yeah.
Ask a question. Who are like since you were there when you did it? Now, who are some of the independent or underground hip hop artists from the West Coast that people should be looking out for or have on their radar these days that you would recommend?
These days. Ooh.
You talking about new or just folks who still decades later still making it
Yeah,
happen?
maybe like in the last decade or so, rocking from like 2010 till now, I guess.
I think Ev is about to really take it to another level. I think Ev is about to take it to another
That
level.
album's
So,
phenomenal. The Unlearning.
and I'm still, yeah, and plus the work he did with Asia, and I know he's doing some other work. So you know, that brother's definitely carving out, a name for himself over there. And then I'm expecting some stuff from Blue. I'm waiting to see what Blue does. I'm still
You
like,
just said my favorite MC's
I,
name right now. That's my favorite color.
I
Blue.
think he's really slept on, and I'm like, as an artist. So, yeah, that's who I think people should look
Still
for.
waiting on the Blue interview. I ain't saying nothing, no, but Blue.
So, the name of the show is Powerful Impact. Who are 3 people in your lives, either personally or professionally, that provided a powerful impact for you,
Hip hop or just in whatever.
just in whatever?
Whew.
Professional, personal, miscellaneous. Just, yeah.
Uh, that's a good one.
I think Bond's going to have to answer first. You got to
Yeah, go ahead,
process
man.
that one.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry, I know he's still processing over there too.
yeah. Uh,
Um, you know what? I'm sorry, brother.
no, go ahead.
After I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I remember that really. I read that when I was like 14, and I remember that really changed me. Not necessarily. I just started looking at more of how people treat people, and really what's really going on. And then my father had a big influence on me. He was a musician, so he had a very powerful impact on me as well. and then this brother right here, Bonds. I've known Bonds for like nearly 30 years, and
Old motherfucker.
the stuff that we've done is just like insane. So you know that I think those three right there.
I'll say my pops. Single father, working two jobs, getting me out the hood, get a dope house, allow me to do what I want to do. Just that that influence. You know what I'm saying? So definitely my dad. Um, on the next leg of life, if you will, with this film thing and documentaries. I would say Ava DuVernay. I used to memorize her rhymes off the Project Low mixtape when she was talking about don't get it twisted, and there's this mixtape, this song that she had. I used to memorize her
He was
rhymes.
a rapper. Wow.
Yeah. Ava's a rapper.
I am so lost. I lost
Yeah,
my card now. Damn.
yeah.
She was a
Yeah.
Project Blowhead.
Did you know that, SP?
Figures of speech. So Google figures of speech. Don't get it twisted. You'll hear Ava rapping on that joint. I know that because I know it's on Spotify, so I know you can find it or whatever the platforms are.
I'm sorry to cut you. So back to what you said. You said that her and that mixtape influenced you.
Well, the reason why I say that is, it was one for the underground, right? It was like, at that time, I was listening to a lot of East Coast, like Gangsta and J. Rue, and Visit was killing it. Premier was killing it on production, stuff like that. But something about the rhyme styles of those MCs, right, in that mixtape, all of a sudden I like banned East Coast lyrics for a while. I only played East Coast instrumentals and West Coast lyrics. So between hieroglyphics and Dell and Soul and Casual and then the Project Blow crew, like that's all, and Razkaz and some, that's all we'll play. It was a short little thing. It was like maybe 3 months. But there was a moment where I literally wouldn't play anybody who was outside of LA or California, excuse me, for a little bit. So yeah, the underground, they had a huge influence on me. Pops, underground. I don't know. As far as influences, I guess, I would say, honestly, I would say Premier.
I
As
just want to
far
say,
as
it's got to be a DJ or producer. Okay.
yeah, I would say Premier. Because I would try to mimic the way he did the scratches on all his joints. And by mimicking him and the way he scratches, that's how I started getting paid, for people paying me to scratch on their records. Cause I was just basically mimicking Premiere, but doing it on my own way. And I would add in some Joe Cooley and Aladdin type shit. So, salute to Premiere. I did, you always hear this quote, give them flowers while they can still smell them. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And so I was able to make a mixtape,
Yeah, the
it-
album title for Blue's second album, allegedly.
a word.
Yeah, give me my flowers while I'm still here. That's Blue's album with Exile.
Oh shit.
You got to listen to that. I know
Yeah,
DJ
I'm
Breeze
not.
got that in the cut. Boom.
Dope, dope. You know what? He does he did a song where he talks about going to Elements and battling or some shit. I forget
Elements
the
is
name.
mentioned in a few
Wow.
songs.
Yeah,
By Blue?
yeah.
Get out of here.
Elements is also mentioned by Grand Agent. He did a song about it.
So I take it
Atmosphere.
y'all know Blue then. Y'all know
Yeah,
Blue.
Atmosphere mentions it.
Y'all know Blue on Planet Asia.
I don't plan Asia really
Yeah.
well. We
Oh,
it's like
man.
we grew up together or some shit,
So
because we were growing through LA underground like at the same time, and then tours and stuff like that. So
We
SP, meet
were
my two new best friends.
Bonds was working at Fat Beats on the floor. I was the assistant buyer with Silos, who was our DJ at Elements. But we were at Fat Beats, and I remember seeing Planet Asia, his EP coming out. We couldn't keep that thing in the store. It was just flying out the door.
We didn't even ask them about like working at Fat Beats. Damn.
Oh,
Because that's interesting too.
yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, we gonna have to do a part two if y'all whenever
yeah,
y'all get ready to
we an hour and a
come
half
back
in. It's like
outside.
I got a wife texting me. I got airport runs to make. I'm picking up my grandson. He's coming in from the airport. I'm a grandpa, so I
Oh,
got my grandpa
cool.
shit coming up.
So
And
just
see,
one
that's
more
where my
question.
jokes come in.
Yeah, okay.
Just
We
one
gonna
more
talk about you
question.
being
And
saving the planet, saving animals and shit. Man, don't go, dude. Once we get off the phone, man.
Hugging trees.
Once we get off the phone,
Oh
I'm gonna roll
so
man.
you into a vet
what
school
do
or some
you
shit.
Oh man.
what do you want your legacy to be? Not only as a DJ, but just as a man.
Um, I think family. Family first. Um, that hopefully be able to inspire folks, inspire not just in music but in other things. Hopefully, my existence influences. You know what I'm saying? So that's it for me. Breeze, what you got?
I second what he says. There's nothing more important than family. Uh, but I definitely learned that it's also important to be yourself, and this is who I am. So I definitely want people to hopefully be like, man, he really contributed to the culture, and and like Bond said, I hope that it helps influence somebody to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it too. I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna do it now. There's never a right time. So that's what I hope. You know, people think of when I leave this planet.
Dope.
So shout outs to you guys for allowing us to be on your platform, and get in some time and talk about our film, where we're from. Again, all platforms, Amazon, iTunes, all that. Go to elementsdoc.com,
Mm-hmm.
elementsdoc.com to get more
Yep.
information. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we appreciate y'all for having us.
It's
And I'll
definitely a
put
documentary that must be checked out, and you will not see anything like it on. There's nothing like it out right now.
Nah,
Period.
straight up.
most definitely, and I'll make sure I put all the links in the description. Thank you so much for coming. Your documentary was
Thank you.
amazing. I bought it because I want to go back through it a few times because it was
Bro,
so
so did I.
interesting, and I'm just taking notes of the names that I didn't know. So thank you so much for coming. Um, Everybody, I'm going to put everything in the description. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Powerful Impact, and we're out of here. Peace.
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 They made a powerful impact. Now you go out and make a powerful impact. Boom!